What's going on, everybody? It's your man T, and I'm joined here by my man AJ for the match preview show, the final match preview show of the season. AJ, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Not too bad, man. Recovering from the heartbreak of yesterday, and realizing that the standard of refereeing on any level seems to be pretty much in the mud right now. Um, Beautiful day outside, so swings and roundabouts, man. Swings and roundabouts.
Right on. So let's jump right into that, man. Let's talk about it. The Crystal Palace U21 team played in the finals of the Premier League International Cup and against young PSV. And you had the beauty of being amongst what it was like 5,000 fans that showed up and showed out for the event, man. So just
Yeah, it was about
tell me
five and
about
a
what
half
you saw.
thousand fans. Five and a half thousand fans. It was good to fill out two stands or two and a half stands. Um, where do I start? Yeah, the fans were behind the boys. We got to see a few of the faces that people have been pining for on a showcase side of things. And I'll address that in a second, actually. So I guess first things first, it was really good to see, the likes of Raksaki, Scott Banks, Rob
Mhm.
Street, on a more direct level. A lot of them made a good count of themselves. There's a few names that I would definitely like to highlight. So Banks, Ratsaki, in terms of that game, I didn't really see enough, but he could be tired, he could be shattered. I really like Phillips, what he had to bring, what he was doing in terms of his performance. I liked Brahma Bulmer as well. Kofi Bulmer, he was really, really good. The fullbacks were amazing. So Rodney and Ademola, they literally can't stop running. I think at one point, Teo was running so much and running so fast that essentially he nearly like fell over himself because he was just doing so much running and stuff on the wings, to be fair.
Yeah.
Um, it was a shame, sort of going on to my next point I was going to mention, because obviously as a result of that, bringing in those players into the team, he obviously ended up isolating the players that earn their place to get there.
Exactly. And I was going to chat with you about that. Just what personally for you, I know we've been seeing on Twitter that there's been a lot of different opinions on this, but for you personally, how did you feel about seeing guys like Banks, Roxaki, Street in particular, coming back from loan, but then immediately being inserted into this match, and guys like Fian Mooney, Jaden Raymond, there may have been one or two other guys that found themselves going from being integral parts of the side that led them to this point to not playing at all or hardly playing, should I say?
Um, I think if we're looking at a personal level, or if I was connected to the individual, I'd be pretty heartbroken. To be fair, those players, earn their stripes and earn their place in terms of the squad and the team. And some of them were obviously demoted to a benching role. Raymond, we only got some extra time. Philman came on for Ratsaki and really made a great account for himself. I was very impressed by him. He's been a player I've been really looking forward to seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the only people that are going to know how that feels is the players themselves. Maybe there's an understanding thing and they know what the deal is, or maybe the coach had to pull them aside and make that decision, to be fair. I mean, sake of argument, before kickoff, I think a lot of us were excited beforehand because it was a case of, oh my God, we get to see these guys that have been playing men's football at League One, League Two level and really sort of made a name and made an account for themselves. But at the end of the day, essentially, it didn't pay off. Would that potentially change the result? I don't know, man. I feel we really dominated that game and we just weren't really that amazing in terms of the final third. We weren't executing our chances. And that was a differential in class between us and PSV. PSV were the least dominant of the two sides. However, it doesn't matter. The result was the result. But it just goes to show on the little chances that they did have, they maximized and made the most of them. So, that will be an adult lesson that those boys will get, because if you switch off for 5 seconds, or if you start walking around in a game at Premier League level, or even at Championship or even League One level, you'll be punished very, very quickly. And that's what the result was yesterday. We weren't really clinical in front of goal. There wasn't really any sort of hard chance. I feel like Rob Street was star for service at some times in the game. I felt that Phillips' kind of head went a few times and he kind of psyched himself back up. Raksaki couldn't really be as dangerous and creative as he was. He had a few individual moments of brilliance, but that was a handful.
Mm-hmm.
I liked when Phil Mooney came on. I feel like Raymond didn't really come on and get enough time to really show what he was about. But these are the decisions that the manager makes. And just like with the first team, the women's team, or whatever team it is, you have to kind of back the manager's decisions. You know, and I would have cheered on the boys no matter who was out there playing. You know, I was there and I was there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Side note, the refereeing decisions were very, very questionable. There was definitely a few penalty shouts. There was definitely a bit of poorness in terms of the linos, in terms of supporting the referees as well. You know, if that's the standard referee that is going to be coming up to that next level, then boys, we are in trouble. And I feel like that is a conversation that does need to be had at some point. I've never been a fan of picking or pointing out referees, but when it starts to get a bit more obvious and it starts to stand out more and more and get a bit more clearer, that's where the conversation does need to be had, to be fair. You know, even if we had won that game with the decisions that we sort of saw as a result, I'm still would have had something to say about the refereeing decisions as well, because the fact that I'm at an under-19s championship having to leap out my seat and shout, you know, offensive terminologies to the referee in a game like that, you know, it's, you know what I mean? What am I doing? I had to turn around to these poor young
Offensive
kids and say,
terminologies.
yeah. I had to turn around to these young kids sitting next to me and say, hey, listen, sorry, you know, don't copy that language, you know? You know, and if I was kind of overstepping my mark in terms of the language, I do apologize. But, you know, it became frustrating towards the end, man, you know, but I still stayed, clapped on the boys, you know. Hopefully those boys will learn from that and they'll improve from that and, you know, take it to the next level, hopefully.
Yeah, it was a tough thing, man. I think and I've chatted with a few people on Twitter that were at the match as well, and it's one of those things. It sounds like, you know, it makes sense that some of those guys came in and played right away. I mean, there's a lot of pressure, I think, to go against a squad like John PSV, because they're a professional squad. You know what I'm saying? They play in the second tier of the Netherlands professional system. So even though they're young players, they're playing against men. They're playing in the men's league. You know what I mean? So there's a different level to that. So I think there's probably some pressure to play those guys that are coming back in that had that experience playing at the higher levels and things. But, you know, it does really kind of suck for those young guys that really were there, that really worked their butts off, that built the chemistry that was necessary to get to that type of match. And unfortunately for a select few of them, weren't able to really, like you said, get out there and really show what they could do. Unfortunately, but, you know, it's the game. You know, when you have guys that go out on international duty and they come back, they slot right in, regardless of how good guys have been playing that have been there doing their thing in front of them too. So it happens, and it's sports, and it's a good lesson for those guys too. You know what I mean? And it's experience that they just gotta, you know, go through and deal with. But luckily, we got some guys that are really talented that's coming through the ranks. So I'm excited to see what they do in the coming months and things. So moving on to the Palace preview for this coming weekend. This coming weekend, we are going to be going up against none other than relegation survivors. Let me say. They're not Newcastle, Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest. So Nottingham were in the dumps for a great part of this season, and now they find themselves out of relegation, seeing another season in the Premier League, and going into a final game without any pressure comparatively to some teams below them. But looking forward to that match, AJ. What are you expecting, not only from us? Let's start with us. What do you expect from us as far as lineups or squad? Who we expecting to see? Who you think we might not see in that final match? What do you think? What do you think you'll see from our side of that?
Good question. You know, both teams, you know, there is a positional place in hand for us. There's a few interesting players from the Nottingham Forest side of things that will be quite interesting to see as well. Mm-hmm. They can kind of almost be on the beach. It's kind of similar to us, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, it'd be nice to finish above Chelsea. So I definitely would like the guys to go in and at least go for the, you know, the result. I think it's hard to tell because Roy's never been the kind of romantic in terms of, it's the end of the season, all the work's done, let's put some kids out, some reserves out. I mean, there's a slim chance he might play some of the players that are obviously leaving, and obviously we can say our thanks and goodbyes and stuff like that. But it's going to be a hard one to tell. I don't envision Roy making much changes. It's never been his style. I don't think he's going to change that anytime now. He'll hopefully get his send off. Allegedly, we shall see. But it'd be nice to actually, give the guys a round of applause for what they've done this season, and more importantly, give Roy the send off that he deserved initially. So I'll naturally, obviously, be staying high and clapping him, waiting for the speech, see what's said, see if there's anything new and interesting that might potentially be dropped. The Forest side, they're an interesting team. They're an interesting entity, and they've got an interesting manager. At home, they definitely look like they've got a bit of a decent presence to them, and they look like they've got a great atmosphere down up there, should I say. But I know the record away from home is not great anyway. So with that being taken into consideration, and the fact that they've already survived, well, I feel like we can walk away with a decent result. I'll take a 1-0 or 2-0, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can definitely walk away with a result. Looking at their last match, they actually beat Arsenal 1-0 back last Saturday on the 20th. Looking at their lineup, they started the likes of Owaniyi, Gibbs White, Danilo, Lodi, Mangala, Yates, Aurier, Felipe, Worrell, Niakite, and Navas in goal. Do you think that we might see some squad rotation from them for this last one? Because like you said, I mean, at this point for them, they've done what they need to do in securing safety in the league. Do you see some rotation for them on their side? We talked about what Roy probably won't do for us, but what about them?
Good question, actually. I think, they've got a large squad. They didn't hold back in terms of their spending and and sticking that all these little intricate bits in it for them. The glue works. It stuck together, and obviously they've got Premier League survival as a result. So that many could argue that actually that kind of works for them. I mean, from a selfish perspective, I'd really love to see Gibbs White. I'd really like to see, is it Andy Omi that they have up front? He's in really hot form right now. The Nigerian international, brilliant player. And he's really turned it on very, very recently, to be fair. So I'd be interested to see if he will play and how he'd stack up against our players. But with such a large squad, maybe Steve Cooper might be the type of manager that might turn around and make some changes, maybe bring some of those players that have not had that involvement this season, or he's had to sort of scrap as a result of obviously their massive influx of players into the team. It'd be quite interesting to see if he's going to do some changes around that side of things. At the same time, I'm not convinced he would be just happily throw away this game.
Yeah, I think exactly.
They'll treat it professionally, just like we're treating it professionally, because they'll want to play for points, positions, prize money. They'd want to go out on a high as well. And maybe with the fact that they've actually survived relegation and proved they could do it, they might want to start considering and thinking about maybe improving their away form as well. So I think it's one of them ones where we shouldn't take our foot off the gas. I think Roy's team talk should just go inevitably as it should for next season as well. It's a hard one because Nottingham Forest's squad is so gigantic. It's very hard to tell. They it's not to say, like most squads, they'll have your sort of standard starting 11 and then maybe one or two. If I'm not mistaken, there was something like they brought in 24 players plus the original players they would have had beforehand. So I can imagine Steve Cooper making maybe one or two changes and then maybe just saying, show us what you got. Whereas I feel like we might potentially I think ours is more of a goodbye and paying homage to the likes of the players that would potentially be leaving in the summer as well.
Now, as far as changes that could be made, if I'm thinking about it, looking at Nottingham Forest's lineup, the one change I think they could make is possibly reinserting Brennan Johnson into their starting lineup. He didn't start against Arsenal for them, but I know he's been a really big part of what they've done this season. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him get back in there. But my question about starters is, do they start Wayne Hennessy? Does Wayne Hennessy get his chance to go against his old club in the final match of the season? Does it happen?
Nah, I can't. Nah, just nah. The Keylor Navas or Wayne Hennessy. Come on, bro. Come on. Come on, man. The only way, right, that is happening is if Keylor Navas picks up like a bit of a knock or something, maybe in like the warm up or something, because I believe Dean Henderson's injured, isn't he? So he's obviously out for the rest of the season. So there's like zero chance of him playing. But I think even Nottingham Forest fans must be at least, primarily aware of what's going on in terms of Hennessy's very lanky arms. It reminds me of those weird little things they have outside car showrooms, the little weird things that flap around. I don't even know what they call them. And they pump the air through them. It reminds me of them.
The air through them and they kind of...
Yeah, they don't whatever that thing is like. That's what you remember, And somebody had to endure having that man in goal for us for a couple of years, minus the Nazi salutes. Hey,
I don't know, man. I think Wayne could put the fix in, man. Keylor Navas might have a family emergency.
Put it this way: if he goes in goal, then man having shooting practice. If Wayne Hennessy starts in goal for Forest, I want to be 3-4-0 up by halftime.
But yeah, with the way we've been playing, we might get 6-0 on them with Wayne Hennessy.
That's what I mean. I mean, Wayne Hennessy, that guy is just—he's like, what's the word? He's not an icon. He's like a urban legend. That's the one. He's like one of them kind of players that's like,
he's infamous.
Yeah, he's infamous. We have Wayne Hennessy in goal, and you just look at him like you don't talk about that.
Infamous Wayne Hennessy.
What a man! What a goal! I mean, he's got the height, and to be fair, in games that I've seen him playing, he's very fan engaging as well. So let me not disrespect him in that side of things. I've seen games where I remember there was a game. I'll tell you what. Ironically, Palace played, and I was in a family stand. It might have been Arsenal, and yes, because I believe it was COVID, right? So we played Arsenal. That was the last time Roy walked away, right? And the young man in front was asking Wayne Hennessy for his shirt, but obviously he couldn't give it to him because obviously, the COVID restrictions. He's sweating all over it, blah, blah, blah. Right. But he turned around to the little kid and he said, "I'm going to nurse you. I'm going to sort you out. I'm going to sort you out." I see Wayne Hennessy at the end of the game give the boys gloves. And then he went to the bench, and I think he gave him like one of the training kits or the pre-match kits or something like that as well. So listen, man, I know a lot of people like to banter the guy, which ironically I just did. But you know what, man? Sometimes little things like that make such a massive difference, for that little, for that kid. I remember even yesterday, a couple of the kids, the young players, to be fair, even without their names on the back of the shirts, gave their shirts to some of the young fans out there. I mean, for me, it would have been a bit weird, being a big grown man asking a 17, 18-year-old for a shirt. But, a 9-year, like one of these little 9-year-olds, 8-year-olds, or, younger or potentially a little bit older, going up to those young men and those young men being more than happy to do that, you got to respect it, man. The clever was due. And when I was walking out the game with D, funny enough, as I was walking around back up to my car, one of the little boys was so excited. He was like, "Oh, Raymond gave me his training shirt. Oh my God, Raymond!" Like, what I mean? Little things like that make a difference, man. You are giving that person a priceless memory. So, I just thought I'd give Wayne Hennessy his props and his flowers for that, man. You can't. But I know he's the end of a lot of jokes and all the rest of it. And his history lessons was obviously the ones he was bunking off. But I'll tell you what, man, like I would love him to play in goal. I would absolutely love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, from a lot of standpoints, would love it too. Let's just be quite honest. But but moving on, we want to talk about what is there to play for in the match at the weekend, in the last match against Nottingham Forest. So what is there to play for? So looking at the table, so we'll use the table as the example here. Currently, Palace sit at 11th place on 44 points with a -9 goal differential. So right now we're 1 point ahead of Chelsea, but they do have one game in hand, and they're on 43 points with a -6 goal differential. So depending on how things go for Chelsea in their next two matches, which actually are two tough matches that come.
One's Man City, isn't it?
Yeah, so they have Man United tomorrow, and then they have Newcastle on Sunday at the weekend. So they've got two legitimately tough matches coming up here to finish off the season. So I feel like we have a legitimate chance not only to get points from this match for us. I mean, put it like this: we win this match, there's no way they catch us. So, like I mean, as long as they don't get a result from the Man United game, but the only thing either team right now is playing for is really placing in money because looking at Nottingham Forest, they're on 37 points. That puts them in 16th, and they're only 2 points behind Bournemouth, however, who are on 39 points. And they actually have a better goal differential than Bournemouth do as well. So they have a chance to jump up one spot. So is AJ is playing for placing in what could be a few $1 million to go towards the transfer kitty the next season or salaries. Is that enough right now?
For me, it is. I'm not a boardroom member. I'm not Steve Parish. I don't sit on a board. I certainly ain't financially savvy enough to even entertain that kind of thing. However, yeah, I think I want bragging rights over Chelsea. Because, like I've said before, I would use that as two bazookas sitting on my arm for any Chelsea man that talks to me.
Facts.
At least for the next 12 months or 9 months, however long the season normally goes, right? I don't care. I am petty. I couldn't care less. That is me. Because as soon as the Chelsea man talk to me, you could beat us 6-0 next season. Bro, listen, we finish above you, though. I don't care what the circumstances are. However, the prize money is an important part. I mean, in terms of the rebuild and from what I've seen coming out of the club, we want to recuperate and try and generate as much cash as possible. I think it's going to be a very important summer coming up. Mm-hmm. I think there's some key positions in the squad that we can really nail down some decent signings. And, naturally, by having more money in the bank, that's obviously naturally going to contribute towards that. And I feel like Nottingham Forest will be obviously thinking the same on their end as well. I don't think we go in there and everybody's just going to play for a 0-0. I'm just not convinced. I think the team will be pushed by the crowd. Hell, I could imagine Doogie Friedman and bloody Steve Parish in the change rooms telling these boys, hey, listen, you don't want to get bonuses, you don't want to get paid. Pay us. Nice our pockets. Mm-hmm. There's got to be a conversation there to be had about that. So just from a personal perspective and just for a bit of pride, it's not been the most elevating season in terms of, we haven't had tons to cheer about or tons to look forward to. We had the start of the season, we had the World Cup, we had the Vieira conundrum, we had all the politics behind that, and then we've obviously had the turnaround.
Yep.
Give me something to cheer. Give me something to look forward to for next season.
Yeah, and I wish, I think exactly what you said. It makes sense for all those pieces to come into play with them, hopefully conveying the message to the players about, play hard, get your bonuses, help us, get money. You know what I'm saying? And then, I do miss the days where, that last match of the season, you get to see a new kit, but unfortunately haven't heard anything about that one. That's been a while back. But, just one of those things. I really do hope, like you said, that they're not going to come out and be resigned to playing for a 0-0 draw and whatnot. Hopefully, it's an open, fun game to watch, and we get some good entertainment in that last match of the season. So before we talk a little bit about predictions for the match, my question to you is, so as everybody has probably heard to this point, we've gotten confirmation on 2 exits of current Crystal Palace players. So we know for a fact that now James McArthur as well as Luka Milivojevic will be leaving the club at the conclusion of the season. My question to you, AJ, is do we see them take the pitch in this match at some point as kind of a farewell, so somewhat, or do we just...
Good question. Do you know what? I wouldn't be objective to it, depending on obviously how the game's going. I mean, if we're 1-0 down and we're getting closer and closer and closer, I'm not sold on the idea that Luke or McArthur would come on and particularly change that. Mm-hmm. However, on the other scale of things, I think if we did go into that game and we did kind of sit quite comfortably, or even if it was like a 0-0 or 1-1 or something, and I knew we kind of secured that 11th place, even if they came on for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe even 5 minutes, I'd stand up and give them their flowers, because, MacArthur's obviously had an unfortunate turn of events in terms of his injuries over the past 18 months, give or take, maybe even the past sort of 2 years. But he still holds I still hold a high regard for him. And I really appreciate everything he contributed to the team. I think that goes without saying. And I think his position in the club, and, I feel like up until quite recently, I've felt that even I haven't appreciated what he does and what he brings to the team and how he calms down the play and keeps things simple. Proper leadership, because, at the end of the day, we are still losing two very influential and the nearest thing to leaders that we have in a dressing room.
Yes.
Same with Luka. I know Luka's. The problem I've had with the Luka situations, I feel like he stayed a bit too long. That's the problem I have with Luka. Over the past same sort of time frame, sort of not 12. I'd say, last 18 months, 2 years. I feel like he's kind of had that drop off, and I don't know if that's age, form.
That was kind of like that changing after, part of the time when Roy was there.
Yeah, he kind of faded, went off form, wasn't really the same player. I know he obviously had the large injury as well, and I know he had his COVID politics as well. I remember that being a thing a while ago, obviously back when that was a thing. But at the end of the day, he's another one that you cannot disrespect his influence and his leadership in the dressing room. He's been club captain for a very, very long time. He's highly respected, and I highly respect him in terms of what he's done for the club. At one point he was our penalty set piece king. I'll never forget that as well. And he played with the heart on his sleeve.
He led us in scoring in a season. I feel like he led us in scoring.
I do believe that one season he was pretty much top scorer, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So you got to give the man his flowers, man. I feel like in recent years, he's definitely frustrated me more, and it's kind of been one of those ones where it's been a collective groan from myself, at least, when I've seen him sort of come onto the pitch or be announced in starting 11s. But I think him and MacArthur are definitely aware of that. The writing's on the wall for them. The club is obviously naturally progression and moving on to that next level. The wages there and the finances there and the space there can obviously be utilized and put into different younger, next generational talents within the team. Yeah. So, both of them, they have my respect, and they leave with, not that anybody would care, but they leave with my, leave with my best wishes, I guess.
Yeah, but with your respect, you know what I'm saying? With your gratitude, for sure. I mean, I think two of those guys, it goes without saying what they've done for the club. You know what I'm saying? They've definitely given everything that they had. So definitely respect it. I hope that they get the chance to be out there at some point during the match.
Little 10 minutes, little 5 minutes. No problem.
Yep. So before we get out of here, man, I want to get your prediction for the match. Give me your match prediction and what we'll see outcome-wise with this.
Okay. Nottingham Forest at home. I'm going to go 3-2 Palace. I think there'll be goals in there. I feel like they're not going to be pushovers, but I feel like we will get the result on them. I feel like we'll probably be quite comfortable. I feel like Palace have been a game of two halves for a lot of this Roy Hodgson era. Actually, to be fair, even under the previous manager, there's been a lot of two half concepts in terms of what we get out of the squad and out of the team as well. So I feel like it'll be one of them ones where we're like winning 3-1, they'll pull one back, they'll try and push, and they just can't really knock down the door. And I think at that point they'll just know they're safe and just relax. So yeah, I'm gonna go with 3-2. Why not?
Gotcha. I'm hoping for an open game like that too. My guess would be 3-1 Palace. Hopefully, I think that's good to see. I think we'll hold on to 11th place, and then we'll move on to the new season, man. So. But hey, that's gonna wrap it up for the last match preview of the 2022 season. Thank you to everybody that's been here, been rocking with us. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate you all, and as always, up to Palace.